Welcome back to the Iron Insight. Thank you for starting your week off right with the Iron Insight every Monday morning at 4 a.m. I'm Bryn Welds, and Andrew's in Mexico, so it's just me as a host today, and we're here with Weld Zombie. How's it going?
Good. What's up? What's up?
Not much, man. We were before the show started. We were kind of talking a little bit about the weather, and you're pretty far up north. Are you in Oregon?
No, I'm in Washington. I'm like an
Washington.
hour and 40 minutes away from the Canadian border.
Oh man, no snow yet. You said though.
No
But
snow yet. Knock on wood on that one.
yeah, you work in a you're a structural welder, correct, by day?
Yes.
Yeah. And are the overhead door is it a pretty big building? Because you're doing some pretty huge beams. So
Yeah, no, it's a big building, and I mean, they keep the doors open all day. So, I mean, when it's 8 degrees out, it's 8 degrees in the shop.
yeah, that I don't know, that would kind of suck.
Yeah. It's like
But
welding outside, but not welding outside.
yeah, I'm sure you're kind of used to it because you've been there a while, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been up in Washington my whole life, but I mean, I traveled a lot, so I mean, I got used to the warmer climates, and lately I've just been home, so it's like, oh man, it gets cold.
Yeah. Yeah, but you've been at that shop a while too, haven't you?
10 years in August.
And you're a foreman?
So I'm actually a boss of this side company. It's called Truck Glides.
Mm.
We produce glides for truck vault that are dispersed throughout the USA. Their main facilities in Cedro Woolley, Washington, but they have their other companies, Truck Vault in Virginia and Texas. So we supply a lot of truck glides to federal and government facilities.
How'd you get hooked up with that?
One of the PMs came up to me with a blueprint, and he was like, "Hey, I got this theory. I mean, it should work, but I don't know because it's just been ran through a model for these extended truck beds that you can pull out." He goes, "Do you think you can make it work?" And I was like, "Well, I'm a fabricator, right?" So I ended up making it work, and him being the general PM, he kind of needed somebody to take on that venture in the shop.
And with the structural company that you work at, do you guys do is it like all custom beams, or do you kind of have certain companies that you do a ton of specific beams for specific buildings? Like we have a local structural steel manufacturer, and they do like every AutoZone, every dollar store.
So we
Um,
do a lot of data centers. We do data
nice.
centers for Virginia, Texas, Georgia, wherever they want data centers put in. We do a lot of data centers, but we do a lot of custom buildings. Every beam's custom made. We are just finishing shipping out the skeleton for a 747. They the company deskinned a 747, and they wanted it in between the building that we built, suspended off the air, or suspended off the ground 2 floors up. So I did all the cross members for that holds it up, and they're getting ready to ship that so it can be put in place, and it gets turned into a uh, restaurant and gift shop.
Damn. That's
Um,
that's crazy.
yeah,
Do you know where that's gonna be at or no?
it's in Seattle, Washington.
Oh damn. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, is it like internal contractors that assemble it and construct the building itself?
So we have a lot of um, we have a lot of uh, partners that we team up with, So if they're erecting anything, the erectors, they kind of hint towards what company that they get their steel from, and that would be us. So we end up getting a lot of contracts through erectors.
And speaking of partnerships, like it says on your hoodie, you're on Team Feronius, Blue Crew, Edge Army, Weld Porn. Who am I missing there?
Flame Tech,
Oh, that's my shirt right there.
right. Flame Tech, I've been with them for a while. Brunt Workwear. Yeah, I mean, there's so many of them. They come in, you know. I'm always for fucking companies that, you know, like support the little guys. You know, I've been with Fronius going on my 4th year now. Blue Crew, I've been with them for, oh gosh, I'm pushing 6 years with them. So I mean, it's been fun.
Huh.
You know,
Ha-
I just got a thing with Uptrail, so I've been talking
huh.
with the Uptrail family. So they're best hoods I've came across.
How did you get connected with Edge Welding Cups and get on the Edge Army?
So I got their toolbox. I won their 20K giveaway, and it's a custom toolbox full of all their cups. Well, I reached out to them and I asked them, have you guys ever made a MIG cup? And they were like, no, we've had people ask and stuff like that, and never really got into it. We've been wanting to. And I was like, well, if I send you a bunch of stuff, could you make me a MIG cup? And they were like, sure. So I sent Eric and Stasia out a bunch of stuff, and next thing I know, I got a prototype cup in the mail, and the first one kind of cracked because we didn't have the whole locking mechanism down where it slides over. So I showed them it, and they made a custom diffuser for the Tweco whip I was running, and next thing I know, they went into full production of making MIG cups, you know. It was kind of cool.
Huh.
They even were nice enough to name one of them after me, so it's kind of like something, you know, I'll always remember with that company.
Yeah. What year was that?
I think it was right before COVID, so like 2019.
I
Like
remember when they came out with that.
yeah, you were in welding school and you asked me about it when you had your TikTok.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the first ever Edge Cup I ever ran.
Yeah,
Was the MIG zombie nozzle.
dude. I mean, it has its place, right? I mean, it's not like you would want to use it every day, but
Well,
vertical welding and overhead welding or really tight areas, the thing shines at that point. I mean, you don't lose visibility of your puddle. You don't lose visibility of your tip. You know, you're not going in there poking everywhere before you can strike an arc.
yeah. And I still have it actually. I pulled it out yesterday out of my toolbox. It's chipped up and stuff, but I'm rough with my nozzles. Like I beat them up pretty good. But
Right.
you're running structural steel. How many volts are you running? Probably
So
like 29.
we run 1/16 to 3/32. You know, and 1/16, I mean, you're sitting at 28, 29 volts. You know, I mean, the 3/32, I ran that at like 35 volts.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it 8 hours a day with it. I mean, I put 420 hours on one cup, just
Yeah.
running it hot. Never had an issue. I mean, it gets pitted up. It looks like it gets sandblasted some after that amount of time, but it's still, when you strike the arc, you can see what you're doing still.
Right.
Just like frosted glass at that point, but you still got visibility once you're welding.
Yeah. And didn't you have the opportunity to work with I think it was like some kind of workwear company that was shooting videos in the shop that you worked at
Oh,
a couple months
yeah.
back?
See, I got so many of them, I forget. So 1620 workwear. I got called up by my PM, and he touched bases with this company, and he knows I'm really big into American-made stuff. So he was like, "Hey, I got this opportunity. You want to be a part of it?" I was like, "Yeah, what is it?" And he's like, "You ever heard of 1620?" I'm like, "I follow him on Instagram," and he's like, "Well, they want to do a video or a commercial for not Super Bowl, but it was like the 2 weeks before, you know." And I was like, okay. And he's like, yeah, come in Saturday. I'm like, right on. So I got to go in Saturday and talk to the co-founder. And
Huh.
me and the co-founder became pretty good buddies, you know. And yeah, so he's like, yeah, we'll keep you in 1620 all day long. You know, it's a little expensive, but I mean, it is American made with American fabric. I mean, the gear is amazing. It outlasts everything that I've ever had. If you get a tear, rip, or any kind of hole, you can actually reach out to 1620 and they'll send you a shipping label to ship it back so their seamstress can fix it and ship it back to you.
Damn.
So, I mean, you look at it and you're like, okay, I can go through 3 pairs of pants for the price that I paid for 1 pair, but that 1 pair is going to outlast those 3, and then you got the ability to get it fixed.
Right. And how long have you been welding?
I started welding. My grandpa taught me when I was 8, and he was a nuclear weld inspector. So I kind of been off and on welding since I was 8. I started doing it as more of a job when I hit 26. So, I mean, I'm 20 plus years into welding.
Damn. I'm 20 years old.
I was welding when you were in diapers.
That's pretty crazy. And what was that first welding job that you got?
I was working construction. You know, I was out in the drill rigs, and you know, I just was like, we're out in the middle of nowhere, right? So they're always like, man, we need to get a welder. You know, we always have to have a welder travel with us in case something breaks. And I was like, well, you really don't need that. I'm here, you know, and I'd have to climb in the mud and the crud and under drill rigs and do all the welding, you know. So you kind of learn how to lay it down when you're, you know, knee deep in mud all the time.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then, was there any job in between that and now your structural steel job?
So I did welding forever and did a lot of it, and I was kind of like, well, I know how to strike an arc. I know how to adjust it off of here and see, right? You know how to do it. But I wanted to learn a little more in depth in the machines, right? I wanted to learn a lot more processes. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go get my degree out of the welding school, right? So I went to the welding school, and about 2 weeks to 3 weeks in, I made, you know, pretty good friends with a couple of the teachers and the maintenance guy, and they vouched for me, and I ended up, instead of, you know, like all my tuition and all that stuff, they worked it out to where I was working for the college, and it helped pay for, you know, my schooling there. So I kind of worked it out there, and I was, you know, I'd wake up, get there at 6. I wouldn't have class till noon, but from 6 to noon, I was working for the college. You know, I was substituting classes, maintenance on the machine, setting up, you know, different structural weld outs for the day for the students, and kind of just did that until, you know, I got my degree in welding and was like, okay, and I found a shop that wasn't that far from my house and been with them for the last, you know, 9 years going on 10 now, and it was just structural.
And it seems like from your videos that it's kind of unique compared, like the structural steel company that I was telling you about here. I've toured there, but you've kind of got your own little area, right? With a TIG table, a fixture table. And do you often use that, or do you have to drag your welders out of there to do a huge
No,
beam?
so like I got the Fronius iWave, which is a multi-processor machine, so it does MIG and TIG, and that's strictly in my TIG area. Fronius, when I first got with them, sent me a Transtil 5000 water-cooled pulse machine, and so that's outside my station or outside my TIG area. So no matter from home to work, I'm always on my Froniuses. I mean, they're an amazing company. They're, you know, by far a leader of technology in welding. A lot of companies, you know, shout out to all the other companies. You know, I'm not knocking on Miller. I'm not knocking on, you know, Lincoln or Everlast or any of that. But I said it in FabTech in 2023. You know, it just seems like a lot of the companies look up to Fronius, and they try to push the boundaries of these machines now. It's not like back in the 90s where they're like, this is what you get. You don't need anything else.
Right.
And, Fronius has kind of raised the bar to everyone's like, oh, wait, now we should do water pulse or water cooled machines and, pulse machines. So it's kind of cool being a part of that family because you're at the forefront.
What does the rest of the shop run that, like, around you? What kind of machine?
A lot of the shops, they actually got in touch with Fronius, and we have 3 Transsteel 5000s, just like the one that Fronius sent me. So we ordered 3 of those, and we're slowly like getting rid of our Miller 652s. So the 652s are dinosaurs, right? They're good machines, they're workhorses, but Miller has went away from the 652. So if the circuit board goes out, you're not finding them. So the company is like slowly making that transition over to Fronius, which is pretty big for me. I mean, it's a huge company. I mean, we have out on the main bay there, we have 30 welders. And that's not including the handrail department or, custom fab for embeds.
Do you guys do any sub-arc welding or no? Ever?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love me some sub-arc. I was like, I'm one of 2 guys in our shop that actually holds our bridge certification for sub-arc.
Yeah, I remember. I haven't ever seen it used. Well, I guess I did when I toured that structural steel company, but other than that, I've never seen it used. Besides at school, that's where I learned about it and how to run it. But I think that'd be a pretty interesting process to do during the day.
Oh, it's fun, and then you got to get creative because a lot of bridge members are curved, right, to take the structural load on them. So you're learning how to use a sub-arc in a curved fashion with straight track.
Yeah, that would be interesting. What kind of testing is done on your guys' welds and whatnot?
We get X-ray, we get a lot of UT, mag particle. I mean, you name it, we get it.
Huh. And do they require that you get certified before you get hired, or do they?
So my shop
go get certified.
My shop, it requires in our state we have it's WABO certification. It's a Washington welding, whatever, I forget the technical term on it, but you have to be WABO certified. So they ask you to get your shop cert, meaning you can weld vertical. It's just a vertical plate. A lot of guys come in and you do vertical and overhead because you're paying for the WABO test, right? So you get that certification, and that's all you really kind of need in our shop. I just took on the sub-arc, the bridge certification sub-arc, because I've been at the shop for so long, and they were willing to pay the $15,000 for the test. So I was like, why not? Right?
Is that for a lifetime or?
Yeah, as long as you pay your WABO fees every year. It's $60 a year, right? But I mean, it was crazy to get a box. You do this huge test plate, right? It looks like what you would do any kind of test plate, but it's like 2 feet by 2 foot test plate, right? It's like a giant one. And once they do the test on it, the bridge certification test, once you come back and they bring it back to you, there's like every test done to it where they drill out center of your weld, they cut it, they bend it, they break it, they freeze it, they stretch it, they flick it. Like, I mean, every test that you can possibly think they do to your plate, and you end up getting this box of like broken little pieces and bent plates. And yeah, I was like, dang, $15,000.
Who does all that testing? Is it like a CWI or something?
That gets sent out to a private testing facility. We do have a CWI at our work. So, I mean, we kind of got to have a CWI at our work because, I mean, a lot of stuff goes into fracture critical. And that's kind of where I made my stride in our shop. I strided to do all the fracture critical members and stuff like that. Those are the
Huh.
heavily scrutinized, like mag particle, X-ray, and UT.
Damn. That is crazy. I've never heard of anything like it's called WABO, but huh. I wonder if any other states have something similar to that. I don't think Nebraska does, I guess.
I don't, you know, it's funny too because like our WABO certification only works in Washington. You go to Oregon and no, you know, it's kind of weird. But I think states are doing that more and more because they want their welders to stay in that state.
That's a good point. Huh. What out of all the projects you've worked on in your career, what do you think has been your favorite one, the coolest thing, or the thing that taught you the most?
The Costco building that we did. It was 26,000 pound columns, and it'd take you a week to fit them, and they're like 4.5 to 5 inch stiffeners in it that get full pinned. And like I said, it'd take you a week and a half to fit it up, but it'd take you 3 weeks to weld it out.
Damn.
So 8 hours a day, you just come in and start dumping wire. And that one, I mean, I got stuff on my Instagram that, I mean, you'll see the thickest weld you ever seen, and it's just straight up, you know, because you're sitting there burning wire in position. And I just kind of got lost under my hood, you know, for those months of sitting there just welding and, like, you know, tweaking what I did just to try to make it better and better and better and better, you know. And that job, it was a long job. It put us on overtime for over 2.5 years.
Dang.
But yeah, it was a big job, and so it was something that I'll never forget. You know, just sitting there welding. You know, like, oh, I just welded 8 hours straight, right? You know, I just welded 8 hours straight, and then I get to come back to work tomorrow and weld another 8 hours straight, you know, and then you're like, man, I just welded 8 hours straight for a week on this thing, and I'm not even halfway done. Like, the smallest weld on it for a side plate was a 3/4 inch, 5 foot long weld. That was the smallest weld.
Yeah, that's pretty small.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
I mean,
What have been some of the hardships throughout your career that you've found so far that, I mean, just makes everything more complicated, and then you got to go to work and deal with it too? Because as a welder, you're constantly sitting there in the quiet, so you have nowhere to go besides in your own head.
right.
What's been some of those times?
That's one of the biggest mental thing that a welder has to come over, right? You got to separate whether it's breakups, whether it's a death in your family, you know. Like recently, my son was shot. He was helped changing a car tire to a guy that he didn't even know, and a drive-by happened. He got shot and paralyzed. You know, you got to go to work, and you got to separate kind of stuff like that to, you know, make sure you're welding right. You know, I mean, like, you can't bring it in, but I mean, you're under your hood for 8 hours a day, so you're constantly thinking it, right? But like in my line of welding, if you mess up welds, buildings fall, people die. So it's like you kind of, over the years, develop that thing like you're not at work, so you're a mental wreck because of what's happening. But when you go to work, you got to put on that show of like, hey, bud, nothing's wrong, you know, like I'm here to do my job.
Right.
And, you know, and that's the biggest downfall. A lot of welders, they don't learn to separate it. And I think that comes with more age, because I see it a lot with younger kids in the trade. You know, they go through a breakup and then they come to work and they're just not there, you know. And when you go to work, when you're not there, I mean, that's when accidents happen. You lose fingers, you lose toes, you lose hands. I mean, it's been there, right? Everyone's experienced it.
That's a really good point. Huh. Did when that recent event happened, were you shocked by the kind of response you were getting from the welding community on who reached out to you and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, you're part of the Edge Army, and you know, I don't ever put my business out there, right? You know, and Edge reached out to me and talked to me, and I was like, well, yeah, but I mean, I'm not going to put my business in our group chat or anything like that. And she was like, well, I think you should, and so I made a post and I did it, and it was amazing to see the outreach of the community. Like you look at my thing, you won't see anything but welding, right? That's all it is.
Right.
I don't put family, I don't put friends, I don't put anything on it. My social media accounts is just welding, right? So when I did put it out there that this is what I'm going through, the thousands of people that reached out, the crews that I'm in reaching out and showing all the love was just, it gives you hope. It gives you hope in humanity, right? Like you're kind of like, wow, It's not all screwed up. The world's going through some screwed up shit. But I mean, there are people out there that care that you may not even know that care.
Yeah, man. I feel like there's been a couple moments like that where the welding community is on social media has kind of came together. Like you and Danny Keiderling. Are you familiar with Danny Keiderling's accent?
Yes.
He was the Western Welding Academy instructor, and yeah, I mean events like that is kind of what. It was also in a rough time for the whole country, so,
right.
But it's weird how that seems to unite everybody the most is in the toughest of times, but
yeah, but it's still a family, right? I mean,
right.
Instagram, I don't have a Facebook, but I noticed Instagram is like the realest part of it all, right? You don't got a bunch of crap ads and stuff like that. So, I mean, if you really want to get to know welders, Instagram's the place to go, right? Some people don't reach out. Some people are like, oh my gosh, this guy's, he'll never respond to me or whatever like that. But you'd be surprised. Some of the most well-known welders will reach out to you if you message them, and answer questions. That's what makes those kind of welders in this industry even better, right? Because they don't look at it like I'm above you, right? Yeah. Like, oh, I don't care about you. You're just this little guy. So, no,
for the most part, they're not like that.
Most part, right? And those are the ones that get a lot more respect.
Yeah, that's true.
To reach out to Dabs Wellington and him reply back to you, it's like, whoa, really? But if you talk to him, he'll talk to you back.
Right. Yeah, having Dabs on the podcast, which if you're listening to this one, also go check out that one. Dabs is super cool, down to earth guy.
Yeah,
I thought it was great.
Yeah. I mean, and you wouldn't be able to know that from you'd see him and you're like, oh, he's got so many followers and he's making all this guy will never answer back to me, and then when he does, it's like he's just one of the most down-ass guys I've ever came across.
Right. And actually, when I met you in person was also the same year I first met Dabs. That was in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Chicago. Was that your first Fab Tech?
That was my first Fab Tech. I was there with Fronius. They brought me there. I live in Washington, so I'm so far away from Fab Tech, So it's not like I can just drive there or anything like that. It's like it's a big thing to go there,
Right.
Because I'm so far out here, and I have all my kids, and so when I went to Fab Tech, that was a really cool experience, getting to see the people that I've talked to for years on social media, Yeah. I've been friends with Dab for 6 years, and I first got to see him there at Fab Tech, and it was fun to get a walk around with Dabs and get a walk around with yourself, Yeah.
I heard it used to be in my local Matheson's rep actually just told me the other day that it used to be in Anaheim, California, in between Atlanta and Chicago. And I thought that would have been cool. I mean, like, it was in Orlando this year, but if we could hit the West Coast, that'd be cool because I got family in California. But,
yeah, I heard it's supposed to be after this next year in Chicago. It's supposed to be in Arizona or Las Vegas. So
I hope so. Then I'll be 21 then.
Yeah, yeah. You'd be able to lose your ass at the slot machines.
Hopefully not, but I'd love to go to Vegas. That
Yeah,
would be cool.
yeah. I was
I
in
never.
Vegas. I was
What's
in
that?
Vegas for like 6 years, and I didn't gamble. I didn't gamble. I'd go to the buffets, but I wouldn't gamble because you walk through there and you see all these people just like dumping money in, and you're kind of like, yeah, I like my money way too much just to give it to somebody.
Damn, you lived in Vegas?
Yeah, yeah. I did. I was working with the drilling company, and we did the foundation for Palazzo, and
Huh.
we did a bunch of foundations for City Center.
Damn.
So we were there
That
for like 6 years.
that's crazy. That's pretty cool though.
Oh, it was
Yeah,
fun.
I never thought about that. Like you living so far northwest, that it would have been a crazy ways for you to go to Orlando this year.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to. I wanted to. Edge was offering to help me go.
Right.
Um, Things with my son just ain't going good. I mean, he's got to learn how to live life as a guy in a
Yeah.
wheelchair, and he's got to overcome a lot of stuff, and uh, he had infections and stuff like that, and he's currently back in the hospital right now. So I mean, it's just learning to deal with it, right? Learning to live
Right.
with it. Complications from not learning or not knowing how to deal with it. So
Huh.
he's a strong kid, though. I mean, he's
It,
18 years old, and he'll bounce back from it.
yeah, man, that is tough. Is the GoFundMe link still active?
Yeah, the GoFundMe link's still active.
All right, we'll put the GoFundMe link in the show notes as well as on the Instagram and TikTok in the descriptions, and then we'll clip this and put that up there.
Right on, dude.
That's I can't even imagine having to go through that, and I'm not even a parent yet, so
Right. I mean, yeah, no parent should ever get that knock on your door. It's the most heartbreaking knock, the most helpless feeling that you could have.
yeah,
You know.
damn, yeah, that would have been horrible timing too with Chicago or with Orlando, uh, FabTech, especially if you had already like planned on going and booked your flights and everything, but I mean, that
Yeah,
probably would have been like a what? Like a 14, 12 hour worth of
14-hour
traveling?
flight. I think it was 14 hours because there was a
Oh my
layover.
gosh. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, actually, mine ended up being like 36 because I had to stay in
Yeah, I was
Dallas.
gonna say. I was gonna say yours turned into a big old thing there. I mean,
Yeah. I've never planned on like, I always plan on traveling through Dallas to get to another place because that's always where the connections are out of our airport. And, but I've ended up staying in Dallas like probably about 4 nights in my life, just not planning on it, but having to.
yeah, I bet. You're
But
you're so far away from home at that point.
yeah, yeah, but it's probably a good thing that you went in 2023 because Chicago was much bigger than Orlando. I
I
mean,
heard that.
yeah,
I heard that. I heard the turnout in Chicago was a lot better too, people wise.
yeah,
I heard
yeah. I
that
mean,
from.
it's kind of perfect because it's like right in the middle of Canada, Mexico, West Coast, East Coast. Like I think is why everybody picks that one specifically. And Miller's in Appleton, Wisconsin. I don't know where Fronius is in the U.S. I've
They're
seen
in.
Dabs and Carport
They're
though.
in. They're out of Portage, Indiana. That's their
I might
main
have known that
headquarters.
actually. Well, so that's not far either. And I don't know.
No.
Oh, Lincoln's, Ohio. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean that's just perfect for all three of those big companies to make it.
yeah. I mean, that's why their displays in Chicago are always bigger because
Oh yeah,
they don't got
it
to
was
travel that
huge.
far.
It was huge, and I remember they were doing like that 3D welding,
Yeah,
like 3D printing, but with welding. That was pretty insane.
yeah. I got a video on my Instagram right now, and a lot of people like. I don't think they realized it yet, but it's a person welding at the Fronius uh, headquarters, and if you listen to it, they're playing a music,
Yeah.
and the guy stops, and then the guy starts welding again, and the music comes back on. That is the music being transferred through the arc of the weld.
I showed my boss that video.
Yeah, FabTech Chicago was cool, man. I went
Yeah.
to Atlanta before that. That was my first. That was my first FabTech, and I don't know. I didn't have it figured out yet. Like I didn't know. Really didn't know anybody. Like I knew their. I couldn't tell them in person. I knew their face, but I couldn't put the name to the face. So it was just awkward like that in Atlanta. But I was still pretty new to the community and meeting everybody
Right.
in 22. And Andrew and I, like, we were pretty broke. We kind of took a gamble going to that one. We weren't really familiar with anybody. Nobody was really familiar with us, and that's how I got on with Everlast. That's how I got to meet Edge. And it's crazy because 1 year on the same day, 1 year before I joined the Edge Army, I took the group photo of the Edge Army for them at FabTech. So that's how that worked. But yeah,
I'll tell you one thing. If you ever go to a FabTech, just tag along with Brad.
Right.
That guy knows everything and anything and where it's at. I mean,
I remember
he'll get you good stuff.
Yeah, me, you, and Brad went to like the metal forming and cutting hall that last day.
Yeah.
And then early on that last day, I clocked out. I was like, I'm done with Chicago. And so I went to my hotel room. I didn't tell anybody anything. I just Irish goodbye. I left. And the next day, Brad was like, hey, man, did you make it home? And I was like, no, dude, I'm in my hotel. And he was like, what the hell? We didn't know you were still here. Like, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, that was the goal, man. I'm done with everything in Chicago. I'm ready to go home. But
yeah, I had a blast. I mean, I got to hang out with Frank and Dabs a lot. And it's draining. It's physically draining. I mean, walking all day long. It's nice. It'd be nice to go there as just somebody viewing and seeing everything, because you're not held to any standard of being with people or anything like that, and
yeah.
it really tripped me out. I had a good moment because, one of my biggest supporters has been my one of my boys. He's always like, oh, you're Instagram famous. And I'm like, no, I just do my work, right? I just do what I do every day, and I like making content, so I do it, and I was walking with Dabs Wellington over to Pipeliner's Cloud, and we were walking there, and I heard somebody out of the crowd go, "Zombie," and I was like, "What? Yeah?" And I turned around, and the dude came up, and he's like, "Hey, can you sign my hood?" And I was just like, "Yeah," and then he like looked over and goes, "Oh my gosh, Dabs, can you sign it too?" And I was just like, "Yeah." That was cool. Like,
Yeah.
it didn't really set in, but then, the dinner with Fronius, and they're like, well, the reason you guys are here is because you're influencers, right? People look up to you. And it's like, you don't really look at it that way when you're just normally your 9 to 5 working and doing what you do, right?
Right.
It's kind of been an eye-opener the last few years. I'm thankful and I'm blessed with all the companies that I'm with, it doesn't mean that you just get numb to it all, but I mean, you do get excited when a company is like, hey, reach out to you and like, hey, do you want to be a part of it? And you're still kind of like a little schoolgirl, right? You're kind of like, yeah, I want to.
Yeah, that's like, man, actually, I really haven't announced it or anything. It's not a secret, but now I'm with Evolution Power Tools, which
Right
is
on.
only a couple hours east of me in Davenport, Iowa. So that's pretty cool. I've been using their chop saw, because I wanted a mitering chop saw forever. because I don't have room. I don't have room in my shop at home for a bandsaw. Like I'm working with super limited space, so
Yeah.
And the new stand folds up and everything is pretty nice. But to everybody listening, I'll put that link in the show notes. Order anything from Evolution Power Tools through my link would be appreciated.
That's the one thing. It's like I'm in my little TIG room right here at home, and it's not that big. It's full. I've been in the process of like getting my own shop set up here at the house and building a shop and doing that where I'll have a lot more room, and it's like trying to get with companies that you foresee you using, right, and being able to make content for and stuff like that, and juggling the ones that you do have, it gets overwhelming at times. Right. Sometimes you just want to check out, like, no, dude, I do not want to make content, but then you're held to a standard like, God, I got to, I got so many companies, and it's like, it becomes a full-time job, like you go to work and you do it, and then you come home and your wife, your girlfriend are all like, why are you always on your phone? It's like, it's a full-time job.
You're spot on with that point. Yeah. Man, there was a couple months this year where I just clocked out. Like a couple months straight. I think it was around July, this summer-ish. I just completely clocked out of making any videos for about 2 months until I got engaged. Then I went deep sea fishing and I did a rating the welds video on the boat. But
oh gosh,
that was that was it. It is overwhelming sometimes, for sure.
Yeah, and I was very grateful that Fronius, Trail, Blue Demon, all those companies had my back when my son was shot, because I took family leave. I just got back. That's why my Instagram's been more active. But they've been really helpful, like knowing that I'm not going to make content. Family leave, I left work in July and I didn't get back till the end of September. So I had 12 weeks off where I was strictly at home with the family. We were traveling 2 hours to Harborview Medical Center just to be around the boys, and that's 2 hours or one way for me, it's a 4-hour trip. So it ends up being a whole day, Yeah. It was really time consuming with it, but you never know the outcome of it. He was pretty bad off when we saw him the night that he got shot.
Damn, man. And it was random, wasn't it? Like, he didn't know any of
it was random. He was with a friend of his, and that friend had a friend that had a flat tire. So my son went to help change the flat tire, and random drive-by came by and shot at him because they were out at 10 o'clock at night changing a tire on the side of the road.
Did they ever catch him?
They caught the guy.
Oh, it's just one dude?
Washington has some weird law that they're like, well, we can only get the shooter but not the driver, which is ridiculous, Yeah. But they caught that guy. He was on his way to the lake to enjoy a summer day, and they pulled him over and arrested him, and they charged him with 2 counts of first-degree assault with a deadly weapon, drive-by, felon in possession of a firearm. So, guy's looking at life right now.
That's ridiculous that they don't get the driver or anything else.
Yeah. I mean, the driver knew what was going down, right? So
obviously,
the driver should have been held to that. Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah.
And what helps you get through something like that?
Family. I had a lot of support from the Edge crew. A lot of support from Fronius. They were messaging me daily, asking how I was doing, and if there was anything they could help with. It's just a lot of thinking goes on in your head, right? Like what ifs, a lot of what ifs. Not much more than that, you got to have support. If you don't have support, it'll just eat you up inside.
Yeah. Damn. I can't even imagine, man.
It was I have 5 kids, 6 kids. He's my stepson, but he's still my son. And it was just like it's devastation to the whole family, So I had to be there for him. So I was worried about not making the content, and everyone was just like, family first, right? So it helped a lot. A lot of the Edge Army guys, they had my phone number, so they started texting me, and I had a lot of people calling me.
Right. Damn. Well, we got about 40 minutes of good footage. If you could leave, well, I got 2 questions because I want to end on a positive note. If you could leave any advice for up and coming welder, what would that be?
Reach out. Don't hesitate to ask questions. Not asking questions is the worst thing you can do. Going at it thinking you know everything. I've been in the industry my whole life and I don't know everything, If I don't know anything, I'll reach out to somebody and ask them, right? Always reach out to talk to people. Words are power. Power is knowledge. So, without that, we're nothing. You just don't hesitate to hit somebody up. You might think, oh gosh, they won't talk to me. A teacher told me this teacher that I had, his name was Owen Owens. The guy was handicapped, he had a stroke, but that guy can weld still with one hand better than I've seen a lot of people weld with 2 hands. And I asked him, what's one of the biggest things you can tell me to do in the industry? He goes, well, if you have a question, you go and look for the dirtiest, nastiest, oldest welder. And if he doesn't rip your throat out, he'll probably give you some good information. So, to anyone out there, if you're in a shop, don't be intimidated. Find the nastiest, dirtiest, oldest welder that's been doing it forever and go pick his brain. Because the old timers know more than they'll forget more than we'll ever learn. So that's always been my thing. I've always talked to the old timers. You got to talk to the old timers because they know more than anyone that can, give them credit for.
And then the second question, this is a question we ask every guest before we end each episode. What's your favorite genre of music to listen to while you work or weld?
I'm a hillbilly. I live in the woods. I'm out back in the sticks. You guys are over in the hollards, you guys out there in the farmland. I listen to a lot of Ryan Upchurch. I listen to a lot of hillbilly rap music. I guess you call it rap, right? I don't consider it rap. I just call it hillbilly music. That's my forte. That's what I listen to all day long. Upchurch, Moonshine Bandits, stuff like that. So, New breed.
Right. Well, we appreciate your time, Zombie, and we appreciate everybody listening. We're going to put the GoFundMe link in the description, in the show notes, whether you're on Apple or Spotify or TuneIn or Audible, Amazon, wherever you're at, it'll be in the show notes, as well as the Everlast link. If you order through that, you get the free from additional charge upgraded Nova Torch and foot pedal and Edge welding cups codes BRIN15. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and thank you, Zombie, for coming on.
Thank you, dude. Thanks for having me.